Hi, guys, and welcome to Bengali Girl. This is your podcast host, Nikita, and I am so grateful that you're here. I might have like a bit of a different voice because I do have a sore throat, but really wanted to record this and really thank you for your support for the launch of this podcast. Now we have reached 100 downloads on this podcast, so thank you so much for streaming, for downloading, for following, and subscribing. Let's get on to it. At the end of episode 2, I had spoken about how we're going to talk about friendships in the modern realm. However, it is a very big topic, and I'm going to divide that into two parts. So, this is what you're hearing, part 1. Now, back in the day, it mattered to how many friends you had in your circle, right? So the bigger the circle, the better person you would be in the eyes of the society. Traditionally, we have seen our parents have a lot of people cramped up in our houses for a dawat because they had to invite, X person because Y person is invited, and basically the social intricacies of a society. Now, most of our parents are either baby boomers or Generation X. Let's talk about baby boomers first. These are the people born between 1946 and 1964, and they grew up in an era of a great social change and upheaval, such as the Bangladesh nationalism, that was aimed to promote the Bengali language, our country's War of Independence in 1971, as well as the rapid economic growth that surged in the 1960s and 1970s that gave way to an emergence of a new middle class. During these times, baby boomers relied heavily on a network of people, either for survival or to escape the nightmares that followed a war. Thus, as baby boomers aged, their social networks became more important to them as they may have retired from work and experienced other significant life changes. As for Generation X, for people born between the 1960s or mid 1960s, and early 1980s, these are the people who grew up with two working parents or single parent households. That meant spending a lot of time alone or with friends. In Bangladesh, Generation X would hear the stories of the war and also hear about the betrayal and friendship that occurred during the war. Gen Xers in Bangladesh also witnessed the rise of technology and globalization. The introduction of computers and internet revolutionized the way people communicated and worked, and they also experienced the return of democracy. And these experiences shaped their attitude towards not only work, but also, their attitude towards family, friends, and society. To summarize, baby boomers tend to place a high value on long-term friendships and they value stability and loyalty. They often prioritize face-to-face communication and may prefer close connections with friends. On the other hand, Gen X are more open to making new friends and forming connections based on shared interests or experiences. At the end of the day, my dad was a baby boomer and my mom is a Gen X. So our household was always bustling with chatter, gossip, with close friends, food, and lots of mixed cocktails of different soft drink types. And based on, I did a lot of research for this podcast and I went through years of trauma because of friendships. And, I knew that I was eventually going to create this podcast. But lame jokes aside, according to me, there are 7 types of friendships. So let's get started. The first one would be friends through bond. Now, these are the friends that you make from your family. Your cousin or sibling, they are your blood relative, but they can also be a snake or a teddy bear. So you can't really open up to them. And if you can't do that, then they remain just that, cousins or siblings. There will always be a distance between you and the cousin or sibling, and you will see them mostly at all the key moments of your life, but you would not bother actively seeking out their companionship. Second, family friends. Now, these are the people you're bonding at dawats. You're communicating mainly only at dawats and do not have a friendship out of this dawat space. Although at dawats you aren't sharing that much with them because you are scared if they turn out to be a snitch, so you play a slow game and you suss them out. Third, cousins. Now, these aren't your real cousins, by the way, but rather the family friends who passed that sus test and is now part of your friends' circle outside of the dawat space. You can't really explain and tell your foreign friends that this is your family friend because, according to them, somehow we're all related in Bangladesh. So you tell them that they're your friend who's like your cousin. Which brings us to the basics, which is school friends. Now, this does not need any explanation now, because these are the friends you make at school. Some remain lifelong friends, and with some you share a bond that was there while school lasted. And once you graduate, you make the trickiest friends of all, which are university friends. All of you are experiencing or tasting some sort of freedom and honestly testing each other's adventurousness. These friends will either make you happily bunk all your classes or leave you in an emotionally draining and depressing dump. Then we have work friends. One way to describe them is these friends exist only at the office and very rarely translate to the outside space again. It is the same as family friends. You always suss these people out. And it brings us to the seventh type of friendship, which is the inner circle. These are the friends that are from all different walks of your life that you have collected, like Thanos went around collecting Infinity Stones. They are the people you will actively seek out for advice or regular chatter. And these are the people that, can consist of people that, come out from all the different types of friendships. You must be thinking where are childhood friends, but they honestly fall in either of the seven that I had mentioned, mostly within the cousin space or the inner circle space. I used to believe in having lots and lots of friends in my life that I would try to actively seek out. You can say I followed my mom's way of making friends, or in other words, I was influenced heavily by a Gen X because mom was a housewife dedicating all her time in bringing us up to be good humans, but also maintaining her circle through social work or just finding random Bengalis at the supermarket. But then I started moving out. I changed schools, I moved countries, and I slowly started to realize that I can never be a Gen X because my life is always going to be changing due to the rapid growth around me. I mean, I am a 90s kid, but I'm still confused if I'm more millennial or Gen Z. However, I do know that I experienced going from dial up to wireless internet. So thank you, Australia, for inventing Wi Fi eventually. My friends started moving away too, but the internet was there, right? And it was created so we could communicate with each other. But don't you forget, I also had a baby boomer influencing me at home. Internet conversations seemed dull and out of touch with reality. Like, how can we write LOL to abbreviate us laughing? Face to face conversations started holding more value to me as I grew up, and eventually you can say that I have become a cocktail of different soft drinks, mainly baby boomers and Gen X. No, I have friends that I keep in touch with through the internet, and there are friends who I meet up every day. But as we grow up, we realize that we cannot hold on to our past self, and that includes friendships. We grow and shed away our dead skin to become new adults ready to face life, and sometimes in that process, a few friendships end or drift away as well. I mean, it is a bittersweet story of friendship. Growing up, I had this group in school called 10 Angels, and I'm pretty sure no one else really cared, but I had to make sure I have 10 girls in this group, and we would have a voting on who else to recruit and all that jazz that happens, and I was the leader, of course. Now, I believed as a kid that if I have 10 friends, then I hit just the right sweet spot. But I learned at the tender age of 8 that maintaining 10 friends is a buzzkill because we are 10 girls with 10 different dreams and 10 different households and their influences coming together. We can't always be online or we can't agree on who to vote because X might be closer with Y, but Z is not close with Y. So, the social intricacies of society. As I grew up, I realized that other than a few people, you can't really hold on to the same level of friendship with everyone. That is just mentally exhausting for you and them. Now, again, based on my research, I did come up with 4 reasons why friends drift apart. A, your mentalities and perspectives on life has changed. You both disagree on how the other leads their life or the choices they make. B, they start dating someone who takes them away from you or vice versa. C, a misunderstanding. You know the most common line that communication is key? Well, there is a second part to it, which is comprehending that communication is also important. If you do not understand your friend's perspective, then no matter how much you communicate or both of you communicate with each other, it's not going to go anywhere. And last, D for effort. Now, this is something that is often the main killer of friendships, regardless of time it has been happening, since our parents and their parents and our great grandparents, because even with the internet, friendships are lost because two individuals do not have or do not give each other the time of the day to communicate. And I can say that, I'm a human and I have lost friendships for all of the reasons that I have mentioned above. And I'm not going to play the blame game because it's sometimes my fault, it's sometimes the other person's fault. It's a bittersweet story again, but as my dad always says, that is just part of your life. People will come and go. It used to hit me a lot harder, when I lost friends, because me being my dramatic self believed that they took away a part of my life, that I won't get back because it's with that person. Of course, there are memories, but you have those moments where you're talking about a memory and suddenly you stop because you remember that person that the memory shared with and that you're no longer friends with. One more thing that really hits me hard is, again, I'm pretty sure everyone can relate, is when I give my 110% in a friendship and I receive nothing back. This may sound like I'm a selfish person, yearning for people to give back what they get, but the world is a give and take, and as humans, we are functioned to feel like we are needed and appreciated. Thus, it really does hurt when a gesture is not reciprocated in a different way or, in a love language that they identify with. I think because of all the friendship breakups and losses that I endured, me and a lot of people who went through this, my age, had stopped making new friends. New friendships are just like getting into a new relationship, going through the whole what's your favorite color phase. And that irked me, and I stopped making new friends and shedded out a lot of people out of my life, when I realized that they do not appreciate me and they only know how to extract what they need, which I will talk about more in episode 4, part 2 of this. But however, I realized that this invisible wall that I had built around myself prevented me from making some lifelong friendships. Let me take you back to when I recently moved to Sydney and had 2 friends in the city. I mean, I knew other people, but that is not friendship. That is just knowing someone. And I am shy in nature, and I often think that I appear to be as socially awkward as I think so, that, in my brain. One day, maybe I was feeling gutsy, I decided to go out for dinner and make friends. And I met this lovely girl who completely changed my mind. And then I thought to myself, like, why am I stopping myself from making true connections? I then forced myself to get out of my house more and kicked my social anxiety to its curb, and the rest is history, of course. I don't think I have hit the sweet spot of 10 friends, but I know that I have my inner circle, and that happens through lots of internal voting and deciding if these are the right set of people to keep as my inner circle. Now, friends are supposed to uplift and support you. They're not supposed to be yes men who are agreeing with every word you say, but they're supposed to support you, and they also should know how to give you constructive criticism that will help you to grow. These are the people that you call friends. They should motivate and inspire you to become a better person, because I believe that the world is already too shallow to have friends who only care about where they can spend daddy's money or your money or their money, and how else can they become more popular. I mean, it's highly important to have friends who match your mental growth as well, the kind where they know how to fill your cup when it's empty, and they can communicate when theirs is empty and you fill it up for them, metaphorically, of course. However, an important advice on that is, let's say you've had a bad day and now you need to rant. This is something that I actively do and makes me feel less guilty about ranting, is I ask my friend how are they. I ensure that they're mentally okay for me to rant, because if both of you had a bad day, one ranting to the other might not really be productive, or might even push your friend's mental health to towards the worst. My advice is, if both of you are having a bad day, no need to rant. Life is already at its worst, so instead fall into dark comedy. Always helps. But this brings me to the end of our podcast, episode 3, which is Friendships Part 1. Episode 4 will delve deeper into friendships and a lot more tea-worthy, I would say, or I hope. But thank you so much for listening till now, and always remember I appreciate you for listening till the end. And thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.